Good afternoon. I'm Liza Holland, a member of the League of Women Voters of Lexington, and I'll be serving as your moderator for this forum for the candidates for State Representative District 79. Our sponsor today is the League of Women Voters of Lexington. The forum will be available later by going to the League website, www.lwvlexington.com. We do have two candidates for this election. They are John Larson and Susan Westrom, and welcome to both of you. We are following the League of Women Voters policies and procedures for this forum. In order to give the candidates a fair chance to be heard, we have randomly drawn via random.org for the order of opening remarks and questions, and a second time for the order of closing remarks. Each candidate will have 60 seconds to introduce themselves, 60 seconds to answer questions, and then 60 seconds for closing remarks. The questions have been created by the sponsors, and we have also taken solicitations from the public. So with that, we will start with opening comments, and Ms. Westrom, you get to begin.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate this opportunity. I just wanted to introduce myself a little bit. I've been around for a while. I've been in office. This is my 22nd year. I've had 10 out of 11 races. So campaign seasons are usually very, very, very busy. They get more challenging each time, especially when you have good opposition that gets out there and works as well. I find that this is a very, it's a tragic campaign season because I am seeing, as I go door to door, so many people are diminished because of having to be encapsulated for so many months on end. And I believe when we get through this coronavirus, we are going to have so much collateral damage emotionally, physically, mentally, because people have been so isolated. As a social worker, I guess I can smell it on people practically, and I'm just hoping that we will be able to use our social workers effectively to get people out of this crisis.
Thank you so much. Mr. Larson.
Good pregame afternoon, Lexington. I am John Larson, and I want to really thank the League of Women Voters for this invitation. But I also want to thank every candidate. You have to realize that all these candidates that you have presented to you risked their home lives, their fortunes, and their reputations. So I want to thank them, and I want to thank Susan for her years of public service. But unlike some debates, which you might have heard recently, I told Ms. Westrom that we would be civil when I filed for this job, even though we have great differences. Now, I'm a 47-year criminal defense lawyer, a proud public servant, former elected official. I have an MBA in addition to my law degree. I'm your Republican candidate in a minority Democratic district, even though I claim to be the bipartisan voice. I believe that Ms. Westrom will not be able to do much for our urban area because I believe that there is a super majority and an increasingly likely that little can be accomplished by a Democratic legislator. But I'm your guy, no matter where you stand.
Thank you so much, Mr. Larson. We appreciate your introduction. And you will actually get this first question first, and you'll have 60 seconds to respond. What do you see as the single most important issue facing your district, and how do you plan to address this issue?
Well, my issue is justice reform, criminal justice reform now. I was the very first public defender in Fayette County. I've represented more people of color than anyone, and I know what's been wrong with some police activities, but I support the rule of law. I've long been aware of problems with driving while Black. I'm going to have to give the talk to biracial children I'm helping to raise. But because of that, I know that there are so many things that are wrong with the criminal justice system, And I'm the one who talks it over with. I've presented 15 proposals to the governor, to the Secretary of Public Protection, to prosecutors, to legislators, to jailers, to police, to all the criminal defense lawyers, and to people in jail in confidence. There are a lot of things we can do. One of those is dealing with our mentally ill. We typically arrest people who are mentally ill. We lock them up, we put them in handcuffs, and for 2 weeks for misdemeanors to 6 months for felonies, they're tortured. They're left in jails, which is where we treat people. So there's a new idea across the nation called citizen intervention teams, where we send out mental health professionals to, rather than arrest, to try to diffuse the situation. There are so many
Thank you
things
so much,
that we
Mr.
can do.
Larson. I really do appreciate it. Ms. Westrom.
One of the things that I'm seeing that deeply concerns me is the situation with childcare at this time during the pandemic. It appears that when you no longer have access to childcare, you have, hopefully, in some homes, you have two parents. But then you have to decide which parent is going to be working and which one is going to be the caregiver and the teacher. This is going to set so many people back professionally. It's going to strain relationships. And I don't know how we're going to be able to open the doors for broader childcare so employers will be able to have access to the employees that they've had in the past. I just think it has grave consequences across the board. It really is disrupting family life. And I'm deeply concerned about the children and the parents and the employers and the employees. It's just an unending cycle, and the damage is going to be there for some time.
Thank you so much. Education is critical at this time. How will you support and increase access to higher education and technical training in order to get more people employed in living wage jobs?
Well, I want to follow up on what Ms. Westrom said, because I think it involves all the education that's going on. I think there are discriminatory effects on certain children in our community, minorities, handicapped children, and single parents. I was a single parent. I'm helping a single parent raise her 2 children. One of them's here. Not only do these children suffer from lack of educational opportunities, which will go on for generations or may. I mean, remember, this virus may go on for years, and plans need to be in effect for these kids' education. And minority children are being affected much more than children in the private schools. The handicapped children are not getting the special education they need, the personal care they need. And the children I'm helping with are fighting with each other. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Ms. Westrom,
Yes.
if you would like to take that question, that education is critical at this time, and how are you going to support and increase access to higher education and technical training to get more people employed in living wage jobs?
Well, I think we have to focus on the populations that would like to work, but have not been acceptable employees in the eyes of employers. And I think we're starting to see a shift in what's happening. We have such a drug crisis in our nation, and we have a group of people who have just damaged their lives so horribly, but not irreparably. And what I would like to see is them be able to access job opportunities after they get through their recovery, once they get into sober living. I'm hoping that I've been working with the State Chamber of Commerce on this issue, actually, because this has been an unacceptable group of employees for many, many years, but that is changing now. And because of the employee crisis, the doors are opening, and there just needs to be broader communication and accessibility.
Thank you so much. Ms. Westrom, you'll go ahead and take this question first.
Okay.
Kind of a nice segue. What changes would you make to our current healthcare system, which doesn't seem to be working equally for all of us?
I think the best thing we can do is expand our telehealth. We have so many remote areas in this state that don't have healthcare coverage. We use many broader degreed people, our nurse practitioners, people with that type of degree that are in our rural areas, but there are so many physician shortages historically throughout the state of Kentucky. But telehealth seems to be a wonderful answer. My concern is once people are accepted to be reimbursed for the services they provide, budgets are tight. It's a scary time. I'm just deeply concerned that those people who are providing the services may have their reimbursement rates diminished, which is kind of a slap in the face. And yet they are the only providers of care that is absolutely life-saving in some of our areas.
Thank you so much. Mr. Larson.
I am so interested in the healthcare of our citizens. As a senior, I'm glad that they protected me, but we need help for our children. And I want to focus in on two things, as I've already talked about. The children in minority, the children who are handicapped, and the children who are being raised by single parents who have problems of their parents losing health care or losing insurance. This is serious. And, I'm going to suggest that getting back to, let's say that there's a proposal out there to start first with elementary schools because of their lesser risk of virus infecting. I also want to go back to the mentally ill people who are being mistreated. And I certainly have ideas for dealing with our mentally ill. I'm on the state board. Want to assist. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Larson, you'll go ahead and take this question first. Many Kentuckians still work in dangerous mining jobs that produce cheap energy, but also cause expensive climate change. How will you support these workers as we transition to clean, sustainable energy alternatives?
Well, as an urban Republican, I have to admit that I was the chair of the Environmental Commission, and I've been pushing for clean energy things. You may or may not know that I had a part in saving McConnell Springs from the dumping that was going on, but I believe in assisting all our people. Coal industry is going on, but it is declining, and I don't know why we got severance. I offered at the county, the CAECO, which, for doing away with severance and mineral taxes that are coming to Fayette County. I certainly want to help them, but we are not involved. That we are the people that should support our Eastern Kentucky and Western Kentucky neighbors.
Thank you so much. Ms. Westrom.
Thank you. I lived in Clay County, Eastern Kentucky for 10 years. And even at that time, I realized that mining was the most economic gift that was given to Eastern Kentucky. But I also noticed something else about the people in Eastern Kentucky. Their greatest gift is hospitality. And I think we are missing the boat by not doing everything we can to opening up that beautiful part of our state to introduce the beautiful people that live there and demonstrate what Eastern Kentucky is really about. It is a precious area, and the gifts of speech and music and art and environment is something that we couldn't pay for. It's a rich environment we need to tap.
Thank you so very much. Ms. Westrom, I'll have you go ahead and take this question first.
Okay.
Wide-ranging changes in voting practices have been implemented during the COVID pandemic. Voters seem to like this no excuse absentee early voting option and voting at supercenters where anyone in a precinct can vote. Would you support changes like these for future elections? And what else would you do to support making voting easier for more citizens?
I think this is a refreshing change, although it's had to be done because of the emergency we're in. I mean, obviously, voting the way we are able to this time has been working in other countries for years. We're not reinventing the wheel here. And sometimes accessibility is very difficult for people with handicaps or who are impaired. And there's absolutely no reason why we can't provide a secure and ethical and foolproof way for people to vote, knowing that their vote will be counted honestly, so we can have honest elections that demonstrate what democracy is about.
Thank you so much. Mr. Larson.
2 days ago, I heard Michael Adams say that Kentucky is the envy of other states for our election. Yes, there are a lot of things that can be done, and I have testified on behalf of felon voting for several years. This is important. I'm in favor of all access to increase voter turnout. However, as a criminal defense lawyer, I'm aware of criminal behavior. Over a period of time, election operatives, I won't say anything real negative about them, are going to adapt. And they may get into such things as ballot harvesting. I don't see it happening, but I'm not sure that we shouldn't have a committee that, of our legislature, which reviews these things and prevents them from happening in the future. I want more access, and that's what I've argued for as a felon voting advocate. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I'm going to let you take this question first.
Thank you.
Let's see. During the 2020 session of the General Assembly, legislation was introduced on issues ranging from a statewide fairness ordinance, a ban on conversion therapy, and restoration of benefits to LGBTQ+ veterans that were discharged under Don't Ask, Don't Tell. If elected as a member of the General Assembly, would you commit to supporting legislation to protect LGBTQ+ community in Kentucky? Why or why not?
I consider myself the advocate for all the gay community here in town. This is what I do for a living. This is what people I care for. I was the chair of the Human Rights Commission when the Fairness Ordinance was passed. I believe in their issues. I'm against the conversion therapy. You mentioned veterans. I'm the initiator for the Fayette County Veterans Treatment Court. Now, there are some LGBTQ veterans, but I just wanted to mention that about veterans. As far as the disparate treatment that the community, we'll call it the community, gets, there was a recent Supreme Court case which affects employment, but it does not affect public accommodations and housing. And I would be an advocate for that community and their interest in housing and public accommodation.
Thank you so much. Ms. Westrom.
Oh my gosh. We just had a committee hearing in Frankfurt on conversion therapy. And the people who supported it, if you could have seen them, you would have been horrified. I mean, this is absolute torture and demeaning at most. And they just can't believe that they shouldn't be able to access people to damage them further. It's just disgusting. But my record clearly shows how supportive I am of our gay lesbian community. I have a daughter who's gay and married and living in San Francisco. And I learned a long time ago, people are people are people. It's time for us to quit judging other people, because when we do that, we don't have any time for self-introspection.
Thank you so much. Tough questions. Ms. Westrom, you'll go ahead and take this next one first. Trying Trying to decide. We're down to the last few questions. So the Kentucky legislature has enacted a wide range of laws expanding the right to own and carry guns. As we have seen citizens openly carrying arms and marching through the Capitol building, sidestepping the metal detectors in place to keep guns from entering the building. For those of us who do not own guns, that's a frightening sight. How do you feel about guns in the Capitol, and would you support any effort to make the Capitol a gun-free zone?
I will tell you, I feel like a sitting duck in the chamber. In the 1960s, I believe it was, somebody threw a turkey from the balcony into the chamber floor, which it was a 40-pound turkey. And you can imagine what a mess that was. And the turkey didn't survive, but I mean, it made a mess and flew all over the chamber. And, you know, they didn't stop and think, maybe we need to be watching who's sitting up in the gallery. I believe concealed carry and carrying a weapon in a zone that should have its own sanctity, because the work that's done there is so life-changing and so important to the people of Kentucky. Nobody's life should be threatened because somebody wants to carry a concealed weapon or an AR-15 that could mow us all down because they're angry.
Thank you so much. Mr. Larson.
I'm so interested in this issue because I'm a veteran. I was a special weapons expert. However, the biggest issue we have on our streets is we have an excessive number of illegal guns, which are being held and used by drug dealers and people trying to steal money from drug dealers. I'm particularly perturbed by the idea of concealed weapons inside the Capitol building, not because I'm afraid that they're going to be used, but because it sends a message to our young people. And our young people, I marched last Sunday with the Peace March again. And with the mothers whose children have been murdered. And I don't think any of them want more guns on our streets. And I think they want less, and they want people to be concerned with protecting our youth.
Thank you. And you will take this last question first, Mr. Larson. In recent years, Kentucky's budget obligations have outpaced its ability to generate revenue. And this is hitting a crisis point now due to COVID-19. What strategies do you recommend to address revenue shortages while balancing spending priorities?
Well, this is going to be odd to you, but I have three things that I want to bring out. I'm the advocate for immigrants. Our state needs these immigrants to make our economy work. Second of all, I also have a degree in international business. I believe in international connections. Our state and our nation needs these international connections. And third of all, I believe that we can get rid of certain of these constitutional jobs. You may have known that I was elected to try to get rid of certain constitutional jobs, and I will still work toward that. We have, I think, 38 jailers who do not have jails. The Fayette County Judge Executive's office and the Treasurer's office can be limited, and I'd push for things that reduce the excessive bureaucracy. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Westrom.
Thank you. First of all, I think that this pandemic is going to be an eye-opener for us to find out what positions are really absolutely necessary at the state level. I think we will be able to find that there are some that we just haven't expanded the purpose of, and they're a bit outdated. But one thing that I have been so irritated about for the last 22 years is, you know, sometimes we just haven't put our big boy panties on to deal with the tough issues, like expansion of gaming, like dealing with the question of should people be allowed to purchase marijuana or medical marijuana or CBD in the state of Kentucky? Should we have electronic gaming? You know, you can't just keep kicking this ball down the road, which we have done consistently through a Democrat majority and now a Republican majority. Let's get on with it. Let's get on with mirroring what other states are doing, only they're getting the advantage because we aren't dealing with the issue.
Thank you so much. And now we'll turn to our closing remarks. The candidates were put into random.org a second time, and the order of closing is as follows: Mr. Larson first and Ms. Westrom last. So Mr. Larson, if you will give us your 60-second closing remarks, you have the floor.
I believe in the rule of law. As you notice that I have no yard signs out, and there's an ordinance that said the yard sign should not be out before 30 days. I'm your bipartisan choice. There's a toxic divide, and I'm reaching out to good Democrats. I can get things done in the legislature, which is sure to be dominated by rural Republican majority. I promise to fight for your issues, and especially criminal justice reform now. I'm your expert in that field. I will be here involved in your courts and jails every day. I'm in town and in touch. We can't wait for a Democratic majority. How soon do you want this to happen? Follow me. I'm your guy in criminal justice reform. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Ms. Westrom, your final comments.
Well, in 22 years, it's amazing the number of pieces of legislation I've been able to get passed. Sometimes it takes 2 or 3 years, but I can get it through the House when we had a Democrat House, and I was able to get it through the Republican Senate. I think one thing that's very important for people to understand is right now in the General Assembly of 100 members, 54 are 4 years old or less, which means we've lost an incredible amount of institutional knowledge, and our institution has changed as a result of that. Not only have we lost that institutional knowledge with our legislative body, but we've also lost it because we've had so many Legislative Research Commission employees retire because of the threats of their retirement system from 4 years ago. It is absolutely critical that we have people with an institutional background to help educate our new people so they understand the importance of the role they play.
Thank you very much.
Thank
And I
you,
want to
Susan.
thank both of you for participating today. It is such a value to our voters to hear directly from the candidates and what your thoughts and opinions are on the questions that they bring forward. So for those of you watching, if you are interested in league membership, please do check out our website at LWVLexington.com. And yes, gentlemen, you are very welcome in the League of Women Voters. We also have a new outreach circle that you can see on our website. I invite you to check that out. Most of all, be sure to vote. This is your opportunity to make a difference in our Commonwealth. You may also look for additional information on the candidates across the board on vote411.org. And I thank you so very much for joining us today.